Welcome to our video on the gradebook in Ultra courses. You'll notice the gradebook is very different from how it looked in original. There's a built-in overall grade, so you don't have to mess with the weighted total and total columns and hiding one and all of that mess. You'll also notice that the calculations within categories are different. It's always going to add up all of the points within a category and then divide by the points possible. You can still weight the categories themselves, and you can weight individual assignments, but it doesn't just take the average of the percentages. We'll go over exactly what that looks like in just a bit. Finally, there's multiple views of the gradebook so that you can view by student, by assignment, or the grid view that you're used to. Let's take a look. So here we're looking at the gradebook in its default view, which is the gradable items view. So we see all of the things that are in our course, and we see the date that they're due, and the grading status. So they can be complete. It'll show us how many things that we need to grade. And there's also an area over here where you see that we have the opportunity to post the grade. Now, if you're unsure what posting a grade means, watch our videos on assignments or tests. We cover that in some detail. What's nice about this is we can actually sort our gradable items view by maybe what it is, by the due date, or what's really convenient is by the grading status. So if I just want to know what I have to grade, I can click on grading status here, and the things which haven't been graded come up to the top. Clicking on any of these brings us into the submissions page for that assignment or test, so we can then interact with that from there. We also have the Students tab here on our list view. This shows us every single student and the grade that they've earned so far. If I click on one of these students, say this preview user, it brings me up to a customized holistic student view, which shows me all of their grades. If you have progress tracking turned on, it'll show me what they've interacted with in the course. And it will allow you to leave private notes. Now, a caution with these private notes, they are part of the student's academic records, so keep in mind if you write anything there that the student may be able to request access to it. Now, if you're looking for a more traditional view of the gradebook, you'll want to click on this little icon up here, which will take us to the grid view. So the grid view works a lot like the gradebook did on original. You've got the student names and the overall grade here on the left, and then you can scroll through all of the assignments on the right. And you'll see that they all have the point values and how many assignments you have left to grade. So here under demo discussion, we see that there are 6 graded and 2 posted. And you see the test right next to it. Everything's graded. It says complete. Now, you can enter grades in as override grades or as just things that aren't graded with any of the built-in grading tools just by clicking in the field and entering in a grade, just like you can in original courses. But we do have a few more things that we can do. If you want to add a column, it's very simple. You can just hover between the 2 columns that you want to add it between, click the plus sign, and you can add an item. That's going to pop open a little peek panel over here at the right, and we can add the item. You can control whether students can see it or not with this hidden from students or visible to students box. And you can set a due date for the item. In fact, you have to set a due date for the item. This will, of course, show up on your course calendar and will notify the students if it gets close to the due date. If this is something like participation that you're going to put a grade in at the end of the semester, what I recommend doing is just making it after the end of the semester so that they don't get notified that they're about to have something due. You can control the grading schema that it uses. Letter, points, and percentage are the basic ones here. I don't recommend using letter while you are actually typing in grades, because if you type in the letter, just like on original courses, it will give the student the midpoint of that letter range, and so the most they'd ever be able to get is about a 98%. You also can control the maximum points here with this box, and you can put the grade in a category. In fact, again, you have to put it into a category, and we'll cover how you create categories in just a second. Click Save, and it is added to the gradebook. We can access our gradebook settings with the gear over here on the right. We're not going to cover making new grading schemas in this video. We may cover that in a later video. If we keep scrolling down, you have student performance. So this controls when a student is alerted and when you're alerted. If the student is inactive a certain number of days, so they don't sign in to your course, and if their grade percentage drops below a certain amount. And then you control whether the students get them with this checkbox down here. One thing a lot of folks have been asking for is the ability to give students an automatic 0 once the due date for an assignment that they haven't submitted passes. You can do that in Ultra courses just by making sure this automatic 0s checkbox is checked. So as soon as the due date passes for a particular assignment, Scholar will pop a 0 into that grade and the student's grade will be updated. Now, if the student later submits, or you want to give the student a grade later, if it's something you have to grade, you'll have to grade and post the grade. If it is something like an auto-graded test that you've set up to not need posting, and the student submits, then that will automatically update that 0, so you don't have to worry about that. Next thing we see here is the overall grade settings. We're going to cover that in just a second, so stay tuned. And finally, we have categories. Categories are really easy to create. All you do is click Add New Category, and you give it a name. There's no more description or anything like that, which you couldn't see anyway, so there wasn't really a point for it. If you want to get rid of a category, and it's not one of the built-in ones, you can click the 3 dots and just choose Delete, and it will go away. I'm going to close that. All right, we've got all of our grades set up. Now it is time to make the overall grade. If you haven't already created an overall grade, you'll actually see panels on the sides and bottom of your screen asking you to do so. However, I already have one, so I have to edit it. A couple of places you can go to get that. You can come over here to the gear, and there will be a Manage Overall Grade Settings button, which will take you to the overall grade, and it'll actually say make an overall grade on a new course. You can also go to the overall grade and hit edit, and it will take you to the grade setup. So whichever way you access it, you'll be taken to the calculation details screen. And here you basically set up how the overall grade is calculated. There's 3 ways that you can calculate an overall grade. You can do a points, weighted total, or advanced. We're not going to cover advanced today because it's pretty complicated. If you do have something that doesn't fit into points or weighted grades, please make an appointment with Academic Technologies, and we'll be happy to help you get that set up. So we'll talk about points first. Now, points is equivalent to what was called just the total column in original courses. You basically add up all of the points that the student has earned, and you divide by the total points possible. So there's no weights on anything, it just has to do with what you put in for the points. And you see we've got all of our assignments and categories here. If I click on one of those, you'll see everything that's in the category. So if I want to exclude something from the grade, I can do that just by clicking this no symbol here. And if I want to deal with it separately than the category that it's in, I can click this unlink symbol here. And now notice it moved up to the top, and even though it's technically in the assignment category, it is not going to be considered part of the assignment grade. The final thing that you might want to do is drop a grade. Now you can do that with this Edit Calculations Rules button. And actually, I'm going to do it on the assignments where I've already dropped a grade, so I'll just have to click the link that says how many scores I've dropped. When I do that, the category calculation rule box pops out, and it'll pop out as disabled originally. You can enable it. And then you can either drop scores or use only one score from the category. So if I want to drop scores, I can drop a certain number of lowest scores and or a certain number of highest scores. Now you probably don't want to just drop the highest scores, so I'm actually going to drop, say, the 3 lowest assignment scores, since I've got 34 of them. Now I do want to make one note. The student will not have a grade until all 3 of those scores have been dropped. So until they have that 4th assignment, it will drop all of their assignments. So just keep that in mind when you're looking at grades. You can also use only either the lowest score or the highest score. This is most useful when a student has multiple options for a particular assignment. You could create a category for that assignment and have a different item for each possibility, and then just use the highest, which of course the student would get a 0 on the other ones. But we're going to drop the 3 lowest scores and click continue. And that's pretty much all there is to a points-based grade. Now let's take a look at the weighted total. So weighted grades work pretty much exactly the same way as points grades, and they're equivalent to the weighted total columns on original courses. So before we get into exactly how you set up the weighted grade, I think it's important that we look at some changes in how the grade is calculated. So to understand exactly how these calculations work, we need to go through how Scholar thinks of these calculations on both original and ultra courses. So here we have a quiz category with 3 items in it, and we see here that for each quiz, it finds the percentage that the student got on the quiz. So the first one's 90%, the second one's 80%, and the third one's 100%. It takes all of those percentages and averages them out. So in this case, even though they got 100% on the lowest quiz and 80% on the biggest quiz, they still average out to 90% because that's how the percentages average out. Then, when we've got our quiz average, we go and put it into our weights. It was 90% of quizzes, it's weighted 50% of the grade, and calculates out. Ultra does things a bit different. So we have the same 3 quizzes here on Ultra, but within the quizzes category, it's going to add up all the points possible. So the 10 points, 15 points, 5 points possible gives us 30 points possible. It's going to add up all the points earned. So they got 9, 12, and 5, gives us a total of 26. It's going to divide the points earned by the points possible for a percentage for the quizzes category of 86 2/3. Now nothing has changed once we get the actual category grade. The process is exactly the same as it was on original. So why am I telling you this? Because if you'll notice, on our original course, the grade was actually different for the quizzes category, which affected our overall grade. Okay, that's done. So now back to taking a look at how to set up that grade. You'll notice you pretty much have the same things. We have our assignments that were broken out, and we have our categories with all the various things. We still have the little no symbol and the link or unlink symbol, but we have some new lines here where you have the ability to enter the percentage of the total grade that each item is. You'll notice just to the left of that percentage, there's a little lock symbol. If it's unlocked, it means you can enter things in and Blackboard can enter things in. Watch what happens with just one section unlocked. If If I entered this at 25% instead of the 35 it was, and I look down here, notice I get a warning that the total must equal 100%, and I can't click the Save button. Now, if I unlock these and enter 25, notice Blackboard will actually fill in what it needs to in any unlocked cell to get that 100% total. So unlike in original courses where you could have a total other than 100%, which wasn't advisable, you have to have everything add up to 100% in this case. That's pretty much the only difference. We can still drop grades by clicking either on the how many scores dropped if we've already started that, or on edit calculation rules if we haven't. But other than that, it works exactly the same way. So let's take a look over here at the overall grade settings. Now, the first one you'll notice is base calculation on points earned out of total graded points. This is similar to the running total box on original courses. If it's checked, students will only be graded based on the things that you've already put a grade in for or that have received automatic zeros. Things that haven't come up yet in class, where the due date hasn't passed and you haven't entered a grade in, won't affect the grade at all. This is generally what you want. Otherwise, students at the beginning of the year, if you've already set up your assignments, would have very, very low grades. You can also control how the grade is displayed. And just like any other grade, it can be displayed as a letter, points, percentage. You have the option to do complete, incomplete here, but it's kind of meaningless, so I wouldn't recommend doing it. And then any grade schemas you created. So generally you want this to be percentage, points, or letter. And for a weighted grade, you probably don't want it as points either, so then percentage or letter. And you can control whether students can see their overall grades with this checkbox. Once you're happy with your calculations, just click the Save button, and your grade will be saved. And then the overall grade will appear in the far left column and is frozen, so you'll always see it as you scroll through the assignments. And the students will see their overall grade as long as you have that box checked. I know we covered a lot in this video, so we have additional resources available for you. You can view our help site or Blackboard's help site at the links you see here on the screen, and I'll also link those in the description. Or you can contact me directly at the information you see here. Thanks for watching.